People think they can do everything by themselves. They're do-it-yourselfers. And I think having an agency is going to help you because they have the experience and they have the connections to help you get from point A to point B.
Hello and welcome to today's episode of Today's Agency. I'm Shawn Butler, your host, marketing professor, growth consultant, occasional international spy, and a 3-times agency founder. Today, I'm sitting down for a virtual conversation with Brigitte Cutshall. Brigitte, I got to stop and ask you, is there a story behind, I love creative enforcer?
I think I came up with it because people talk about creating stuff, but they never do it. So I kind of like remind them and poke them in the nice way to remind them to, you just got to start doing the work a little bit at a time, right? And that's how you get to the end, one step at a time.
Absolutely fantastic. So Gemini Media is an Atlanta-based communications and production agency. Your motto is production management and projects made simple. I'm happy to speak with you today. I know you bring almost 30 years of marketing experience in print production, project management, publishing, areas I'm very particularly interested in, and I think will resonate with the audience for this podcast. You're recognized as a leading expert in your field, and you've received multiple awards to prove it, including the $1 Million Club and the Someone You Should Know recognition from American Printer Magazine.
Right.
Brigitte, it's great to have you on the show. Thanks for spending some time with me today.
Thank you for the invite, Shawn.
You're absolutely welcome. I already know we're going to have a fun conversation, but I'm going to dive in right where it gets exciting. You've seen this business change. You've seen this industry change. I'd love to hear your take on what's hot today and where you think that's headed for us.
Well, I've always been fascinated with books in general. That's kind of how I got into it. I joke by accident to get into publishing and all that, because I was always obsessed by it. And when I first got into it, gosh, over 30 years ago, people don't realize, but publishers printed their own books in-house, right? They had their own printing equipment. And then they're not made, they have a lot of, that's why I got hired by, Western Publishing, which does little golden books, because they had all these presses and they needed to fill that press because it's very expensive, that kind of equipment. So that's what we did. I helped bring in more business from other customers to fill that up. But that was called offset printing. And now with digital technology, it started probably over a good quality digital printing, right. Good quality, not your printer in your office, but it got a little bit better, and that's what's going on. And so now we've had people moving to print on demand, which is digital, which is more cost effective, and you don't have to print large quantities via offset printing to store. And that's kind of how that's happened. A lot of mergers and acquisitions, and a lot of my stuff has been some magazines, but that's kind of, the digital stuff is getting rid of a lot of physical stuff in newspapers. But I think it's helping publishers, though, having the digital print. And it's, you can print one at a time, you can print 100 at a time, right? You just don't have to store it. But the quality is much better and very close to offset. Can you hear this?
Yeah, no, I've seen those same changes, and I recognize the impact that's had in the industry. And tell me how you got from that background into agency work and how you're still in publishing today.
Well, what it is, I worked at Pitney Bowes for a while, and then our division got sold off. And then, long story short, I decided to do my own business from encouragement of my clients, because they trusted me, because I try to look at the big picture and I tell them, give them advice. I'm the creative enforcer, I'm just kidding, to get their projects done the correct way based on, I look at, we always talk about ROI, return on investment. I also look at it return on ideas. So I think an agency can help provide that. And I never in a million years thought I would be doing my own thing, but my clients trusted me. And many people don't know this, but I also had cancer again when I started Gemini Media. So I was dealing with that, but it also gave me some confidence and to know that, we all have some value to add. And that's kind of how I got. And so publishing has changed dramatically, but then print on demand, I'm helping those kind of people who don't understand it to get their product out there properly or good, because as you know, if something's poor quality, it's going to turn people off. And that's why I talk a lot about the quality aspect. And that's where my benefit, understanding the whole process. This girl who understands the technical aspect of printing.
Sure.
But I try to explain
it. Run into that don't understand self-publishing, print on demand, the whole publishing industry.
No, and I could give some feedback that is more normal language. Is that the right word?
Yeah.
Saying it here, just like right now, I'm working on
spell it out, sure.
Right, and I'm working on a project right now, and we're having problems with the print files. because this background of the marketing company is really digital. Well, it's a different kind of file you need to share. And so I've been like, I feel like I should be a teacher. I'm just kidding. Explaining how the file that you provide for something digital versus something that's going to be ink on paper is a different process. So I'm helping with that too. A lot of people that are newer in this field, they're mostly focused on the digital aspect.
Sure.
And so printing still exploded, by the way, during COVID. It actually, people wanted physical things in their hands, like books and booklets. Hopefully that helped.
No, it's the kind of stuff I'm interested in. It sounds like in addition to, providing print and book writing, you function as a coach or even a consultant on a lot of this technology and industry specifics.
Correct. And a lot of us, and I'm one of them, we take our own knowledge for granted. And I'm just so glad I have like this opportunity to share that information with you. I've always been, I call my, very creative, but I also like the technical aspect for some reason. So I'm using both sides of my brain and I try to explain it in easy terms. And that's why people bring me in. And that's why I can help consult where they can go, or I can help manage the project for them. Just because it gets overwhelming. There's so many bits and pieces.
No, fantastic. No, I totally get it. So what clients do you like to work with? Who's the right person to, kind of sign up for a service like yours?
I guess it's people who are looking, my strongest background is in offset, all right, because that's kind of where I lived and breathed, and I worked for Heidelberg too, which people don't know they invented the press.
Sure.
And
Yeah.
Heidelberg has switched to digital too, because they see that too. So they're doing a lot of software. So it's mostly people who don't have someone on staff. Like I work a lot with the marketing managers of companies. Could be, my clients are nonprofits, training companies, and regular, I should say smaller publishers who don't have the staff on hand like me. So it's an agency role, but I do handle as well repurposing some of the content, not just ink on paper, right?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of people, I'm sure you've heard that, you've seen it, repurposing content, right? It could be creating videos or creating a lot of social media content from that. I don't get involved in social media content, but I'm right now more focused on maybe videos and books or booklets, right? Printed material.
Sure. I got to ask your take on ChatGPT, on AI copywriting, content creation. Where do you think we are right now?
Well, people don't realize it's been there. It's just we're now finally talking about it. It's all, I'm sure you've seen it. Like if you're typing in, if you have Microsoft Word, that automatic stuff, it's AI and it's on your phone.
That's true. Wow.
Right. It's kind of, they're slowly integrating it into us. And that's kind of like, I have never liked Siri. I just don't, I mean, that's just me. I shouldn't say that. No, well, and then I think Alexa as well is something I didn't like, but it's getting better. But anyway, ChatGPT I played with it, and I think people are afraid of it, but it comes up with good ideas, but the writing is not good, right? You're still going to need editors or someone to understand. It's good for ideas. And then there's another thing called Grammarly. Sorry, I don't know if you've heard of that. They check for plagiarism. That's what it is.
Oh, totally.
Whereas ChatGPT won't, and that's what it is. I think that we do need to slow down a little bit and make sure we have some barriers and we're not plagiarizing. That's important. There's another one I've used called Writer, RYDER. They have a plagiarism check in there, right? So that's good. That's important. Make sure you're not plagiarizing something if you are going to write seriously. And I'm not a musician, but I've heard, people, it's not just the writing aspect. It's that open AI can create videos and music. So we need to make
putting down song lyrics, but they can also put together, chords, music in the style of other artists.
So that's we need to make sure there's some barriers there to make the robots, we call them bots, whatever you want to call it, are not plagiarizing. So, but that's going to be hard to do. And I'm not afraid of it because I've always liked learning. So that's something we need to be open to and we have to learn to adjust. It's not going away, guys. But right now, as of now, it's good I think ChatGPT is great for giving ideas. This is how you prompt it, right? Act like a seamstress and ask about sewing. I've never done that part, but it'll give you a response of someone who has experience. But it's still the sentences repeat themselves and it's not good writing. It's not meant to do long form writing. How's that?
No, I love that you said there would still be need for prompters, for editors, for curators to be involved. The human being
Yes.
still have a big piece in this, and the AI has a long way.
Yeah, it doesn't know our it can repeat maybe, but it doesn't know our persona as humans yet. Right.
Yeah, it lacks the ability to truly create and
Yes.
imagine and
Because
dream.
you're right.
It's
And it's
strictly
and
still a
how
human function, right?
and it's how you ask the question is what response you're gonna get out of it. And I don't put anything personal out there. You know, what I'm saying, like your social security number, because that'll be in the data.
It's in there.
And
It's collecting it all. Well, I know
yes,
you're really close to writing. Writing is in your background, and you've got 3 books that you've published.
yes.
Um,
Um,
how is
well,
that in this industry? Where's that headed for you?
well, the first one I did, even though I'm in the publishing industry, I've been blogging for a while, but I finally did my first book and created it from all those blog posts I had, right? I'm like, there's a theme here, and that's what I did. So that's how one way you can repurpose that content. And I did it after that last cancer diagnosis, and people liked it. But I made it more than just words. I had a designer involved, some nice visuals added because it's telling a story. And I'm one of those, I guess, visual as well as just a story. I did that. It's called Real Things: 6 Ways to Embrace Life, because I'm looking at, when the cancer came back, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did you learn? And just pause and reflect on what you can do and focus on what's important. And that's what I did. And then the second book was my stepfather died unexpectedly. And it's a book about him. He is a West Point graduate, and he was special forces, and he was a PSYOPs commander. And so he did all this.
That's
I
a
didn't know
cool
about
life.
all this.
Very creative.
He was a spy. Okay. We didn't know this.
Yeah.
We learned all this. I mean, he passed away at home in a heart, but they don't tell you what they do. And so I learned all this stuff. So I created this book,
They're
and
not
people
allowed,
like it.
right? His clearance prevents. He had to tell you he was,
Oh,
exotic plants.
he scared me one time when I shouldn't say, he said, I think I was before I had kids. He said they were going to go to Sudan, and he was the military attaché, okay, which is in Sudan at the embassy. That's basically gathering information, but I didn't know that back then. And he said to me, if anything happens to me and your mother, don't tell the media who your parents are. And I'm like, I didn't know. I'm like, what?
Okay, Dad.
I'm like, oh, okay, what are you doing? And so I never said anything, of course, but nothing happened to him. But I learned later, after he died, what he was replacing another military attaché who had been murdered. Right. I should say murdered. So I'm like, so that's why but he was brave.
Can we publish this? Do we need to get clearance on this podcast now?
No, yeah, you can publish it. It's fine. I wrote it in, it's in the book, but the book has an interest in becoming a film. So of course, I had to get help writing. I'm not a script writer, but I did play around with that during COVID, by the way.
Congratulations on being on.
I did. And me and 2 other women got selected for screening as well. Anyways, because of this, people's interest in creating a movie out of this book. So it's in script phase, but now with the thing going on in the production and film industry, things are shut down right now because of the writer's strike. So I don't know how long that's going to be, but people like the stuff I shared. And it's, I wrote it from a perspective of a stepdaughter who was not a man who wrote it. You know what I'm saying? That's why people like that perspective. That makes sense. And from my perspective. And the other book I wrote is Quality Book Formula, about my background, about how people need to, all these changes that are happening, but you need to know the basics.
Give me that full title.
It's called Quality Book Formula: How to Professionally Publish a Book for Excellence. I was just being funny. Have you ever seen, Ted's Adventure? They always talk about everything's excellent.
Everything was excellent.
And that's why I try to throw a little humor in everything. That's just my personality. But people like it because they didn't know all the details. If it's more about ink on paper, the physical book, and how important it is not to skip steps. And the production process is really my strong point. And production includes design, right? And what kind of, where are you going to publish this? Is it what platform, right? And it's amazing that I'm so glad everybody's doing this now, but I've seen lots of bad quality, just because I'm from the industry, and that can turn people off. And as you know, the cover is real important. It's kind of like clickbait, right? And your title. So I kind of go through all that and some, little outline. And I have like a download you can do on a checklist of things you need to go through. And it's called qualitybookformula.com. It's a checklist to make sure you're doing all these things before you actually get published out there.
That sounds awesome. Where can we find that?
Well, I created a link called qualitybookformula.com, and that's where you download a checklist. And then the book covers on there. I don't know if you can see this, but that's it.
Great. Yeah, we'll make sure all that makes it to the show notes. That's awesome.
Right. And what it is, the designer created an old school design because I'm so into his history, by the way. So I do write a little bit about the history of print. And of course I had to mention Heidelberg, which I worked at. And I think they probably like that because I was so into all that. Anyway, so that's why we made it kind of look like it's foil stamped, but it's not. Foil stamping is rare to do now. It's just because of the cost. And you can't do foil stamping on print on demand.
It's a beautiful book. You've mentioned it a couple of times. I want to dive into it. So how important is ink on paper and physical books in our increasingly like digital, everybody wants to be online world?
Well, I think this is more, and I put in there a description of the different types of print on demand. There's laser and inkjet, and inkjet is actually better quality, more in line with offset. And so you even need to know this information on print. More print on demand people are competing with Amazon now, right? Amazon is what grew it. And in the past, I thought Amazon printing, I'm sorry, Amazon, I thought the printing sucked. But
I like that you apologize to Amazon. I hope that they've got their senior execs, tuning into this podcast.
Well, what it is, they realized that they're now outsourcing to other printers. Okay. They're partnering with other printers, and that's why the quality's gotten better.
Yeah, you can't do everything. Even Amazon can't. Somebody else does this better.
Way back in the day, I visited one of their facilities in South Carolina. Create Space, I think that's what it was. I can't remember. A long time ago. It's by Charleston, and they were bought out by Amazon, right? But so at first I was like, that's when digital printing first came out, and I was checking it out when I worked at Heidelberg, and I just was like, this is so cool and weird. This, in your brain, we're so used to you have to have a plate, ink on paper, but Amazon they couldn't handle all the people who are wanting to self-publish or indie publish, and I've seen a lot of hybrid publishers too, people who can help you, who understand it. You get your book written, and then they'll handle the production aspect for you. I'm not really I'm not at the middle. I guess I could be. Maybe I should offer that. I mean, I have thought about that, right? But a lot of people, the pinnacle is being traditionally published, which is a very hard thing to get into, and very difficult. And part of it is that they have to make money on it, right? And that's why it's harder to get in there. But the books are good, the content's good, the quality's good. But I think what I've seen, a lot of self-published stuff now is people doing it related to their business. That's why I call it nonfiction, are taken off. And that's kind of what mine is. It's like my business card, right? So I have proof that, hey, look, I got this, and people like that. And it came to me, someone was talking to me a couple of years ago. She said, Bridget, you get so excited when you talk about books. And I said, I do? Because I don't.
Really?
I mean, I get excited about, but I just get excited about it. And that's something, as a child, I was that way. And I think I was one of those kids that read a lot. So maybe that's where it came from. But I think it helps your imagination. It doesn't matter if you read on a tablet or on a book. I think reading in general is good for your thinking skills and figuring things out in your imagination. And
when you said traditional publishing, it's got to make money. So how does writing your own book and going that direction, turn around and deliver an ROI?
What it is, it's like I said, most people are doing it as a business card, to serve their business. And some people are taking that book and they're creating courses out of it. That's very popular now. I'm sure you've seen a lot of people are creating courses they're being recommended to do it from Chat GPT. Create a course, but it's fine. You create an outline and then you ask for more in-depth information.
Yeah. Well, Brigitte, my audience is agency owners that are always looking for, new ways to benefit from what's coming next in this ever-changing world of the agency model. What would you want to make sure that they know you could help them with?
Well, I think it's important that people think they can do everything by themselves. They're do-it-yourselfers. And I think having an agency is going to help you because they have the experience and they have the connections to help you get from point A to point B. And you do have to have a plan and not just throw spaghetti at the wall. I've heard that term a long time ago. People used to just throw spaghetti at the wall to see if it worked. And many times it doesn't. You do have to do some testing, right? You have to test out stuff. Sure. Test out if the audience, do you have a big enough audience for it, right? And that's do they need, not what you want. That's what I've learned too over the years. Do they need it or want it, not what you do, the audience? And that's, to me, the biggest takeaway in life is you can't do it by yourself. You do have to get some help, and it's really helpful to be involved with a agency that can help you meet your goals, and they're going to help you develop a plan.
And you're preaching to the choir. I mean, with agency people, they've got to recognize, even inside their own business, there are other sources. Just like Amazon went to printers, we've got to rely on people who are true experts in the fields that we need to work in for our clients. What's coming up next for you? How can we keep in touch with everything you're doing?
Well, I have my website was updated earlier this year. Maybe it was the end of 2022. I don't know what year, but it was updated to try to, because I do a lot, not just for the book production and project management. I do a lot of health advocacy as well, because that's very important to me because of my background. So I've done speaking in both aspects.
And that's BrigitteCutshall.com.
Yeah, BrigitteCutshall.com. And I have another book coming out just because I have a podcast as well. I talk a lot about resilience. And a lot of people are authors that come on and we talk about what made them write that book and what they overcame in life. And that's really what it is. And not just business, but it's personal too. And you got to stick to it and be have some perfect perseverance.
Fantastic. It was great talking to you. I, again, appreciate your time. I want to thank our listeners for tuning into today's Agency, your weekly update on the evolution of advertising, marketing, digital and communication business ownership. We're helping agency owners successfully work on their business instead of working in it. You can find us online, and we'd love it if you shared our community so other growth-focused business owners can hear the things that are changing and keeping up to date. Remember, you own the business you're building. Don't let it be the other way around. Keep doing great work.